Hey there friends, welcome back to another Legally Armed America video. I'm of course Paul Glasgow, the one and only Truth Pimp here on a somber Independence Day weekend after the results and the horrible disaster that has hit mid-Texas, South Texas, heading over into East Texas, because let's face it, it's not over yet. The rain is still coming down in the Austin-ish area heading towards the east. Horrible, horrible things. Obviously, the Camp Mystique, with all the young girls and boys, I think, go there also, has certainly stolen the headlines. But there's a lot going on in that Kerrville / Austin, just north of San Antonio, New Braunfels. I have friends that live in the area. My heart certainly goes out for those people, because there's a lot of good people over there. I know a lot of them. So just know that we are thinking of you guys, and we know the plight you're going through. There's a lot going on, though. So I wanted to address a ton of it in this video, if you will. First of all, obviously the most important things out there. At this point, the death toll stands at 68 people confirmed dead across Central Texas, with 59 deaths reported in Kerr County alone, including 38 adults and 21 children. Additional fatalities include 4 in Travis County, 2 in Burnett County, 1 in Kendall County, and 1 in Tom Green County. Approximately 12 individuals remain unaccounted for, specifically 11 girls and 1 counselor from Camp Mystique, which is a Christian summer camp along the Guadalupe River in Kerr County. Earlier reports indicated up to 27 girls missing, but this number has been revised, as some have been accounted for since then. So the first thing I want to do is show you a video by Lara Logan. She's on the ground there at the Guadalupe River, and this is, to see this, knowing that this was a beautiful campground prior to this video, is pretty eye-opening. Take a look.
So I'm standing on the edge of the Guadalupe River, although it's normally on the other side of those trees is where the river bank is. All of this water is not normally here, and the water came right up this hill. I mean, past this house to the road. You can see up there, when you're up on the road, you can actually see the water line. And this is like a graveyard. There's a vehicle or an RV, a truck or an RV wrapped around every one of these trees. And we just found a little dog wandering around here. Looked like it had lost its owners, a little Chihuahua. So I asked some people to take it to the rescue center. But you know, one of the things that's kind of amazing is that it's been I know that first responders are out there all over the place and law enforcement, but down here it's all volunteers. And when they found the body just up the river, you know, then the uniformed guys came down here from the command center. But it was volunteers here working all today and all yesterday and last night. I spoke to a number of them who were here. You know what's crazy is that Mystic, the camp where all those young girls tragically went missing, is just around 11 miles up the road. And I've been told this story now by a couple of people. I have to still confirm it fully, but a couple of people told me there was a girl who was on a mattress, and she came all the way down the river and was found a few miles down there. So if that is accurate, that would be just unbelievable. Your heart goes out to these people. It doesn't, it's hard to describe what it's like to be here. And it's getting dark now, and there's supposed to be more rain this evening, so we'll see what happens.
So the, quote, official record as to why this happened, obviously you can't predict these things perfectly, but you have a general idea of how they came to be. Flood was pretty much caused by the remnants of Tropical Storm Barry becoming embedded into a broad mid-level trough over Central Texas. Those remnant lows are typically slow-moving and drop heavy rain over a large geographical area where the troposphere destabilizes. We've seen it happen before. I mean, we watched it happen with Hurricane Harvey a few years ago, where it circled around and just sat on top of Houston and just dumped water. We saw it happen last year with Hurricane Helene. Our friends out there in West North Carolina and East Tennessee got hammered, and that water just sat on top of them. So we've seen these types of situations before. Again, speaking of our friends in North Carolina and Tennessee, we have not forgotten about you, even though FEMA did. That's another thing that drives me a little bit nuts, where people are talking about the FEMA cuts right now and, ooh, it's Trump's fault. When we had a fully funded FEMA, and did nothing, not only nothing to help many of our friends over there in East Tennessee and West North Carolina, but actually thwarted the efforts. We had our friend Bear on here from Grindstone Ministries, who told us about some people up in the mountains of North Carolina that they were actually helping. And then the FEMA folks got mad because they were helping them, told them they couldn't go up in the mountain anymore. So they got a helicopter to go up into the mountain. And then they declared that a no-fly zone to keep the help that wasn't FEMA from going up there, so that you had to be reliant on FEMA. That's FEMA. So thank you, Donald Trump, for cutting that. We do appreciate that. Now, you know what happened, just so you guys know. It's not like we said, no more rescue efforts. FEMA's done. Nope, doesn't work like that. It was, let's stop taking money and putting it in the wrong places to house illegal aliens in nice hotels in New York City. Instead, let's leave the money at the local level when people need it. That way they can access it and provide their own help, because when they're from their area, they know how to use the money in their area. Why are we relying on bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. to fund an effort in an area they know nothing about, in the hills of Texas by the Guadalupe River? Never been there. Guaranteed, most of them had to look up Guadalupe River on the map. In fact, Kerrville is not even a popular enough name to where they would have even had a clue where it is. Probably had to figure out how to spell it first before they searched for it. So yeah, I'll trust the locals with the money before somebody 2,000 miles away in DC in a nice air-conditioned office. But imagine this, you drop your kids off on a sunny day to go to summer camp. They're excited. You're excited for a little bit of downtime without them. Let's face it, that is the absolute truth. And you drop them off and they're all giddy and they run off with their friends. Can't wait to fish, swim, water ski, canoe, play basketball, play tennis, whatever, for a week or two. Excited, knowing that is the last time you're ever going to lay eyes on your 10, 12, 13-year-old. I can't even wrap my head around that as a parent. Now at this point, there's a lot of different places that you can get disaster relief to. I'll keep these posted online at different times during this video, because there's a lot out there. And I'll try to grab those links that you see over there for donations and put those in the description down below. I'll try to get those in there this afternoon if possible. As a Catholic, I will tell you, I do not support any money going to the Catholic charities. Yes, I am a Catholic, but these are people who help fund the NGOs and take money to essentially traffic children from Central America all the way up into the United States illegally. I highly recommend not giving a frickin' dime to Catholic charities. They do not deserve your money. There are plenty other places that you can spend your money if you do want to help the people of Central Texas through this flood and horrible disaster. Now, there's a lot of dummies out there. We know that. We deal with them on a daily basis. I mean, let's face it. None of us walk through life thinking that we're going to meet intelligent people everywhere we turn. In fact, the odds are really stacked against us of that happening. In many cases, it's dummies, especially when you run across progressives, right? Progressives. Yeah, they're the smartest people in the room, according to them. A lot of them have been crying about Donald Trump, saying that, oh, it's his cuts and it's Governor Abbott's cuts in Texas. That's why this happened. Wow. I mean, that's next level stupidity. Yeah, first of all, they didn't cause the rain. We all know that. Secondly, they're saying that get this, guys, they're saying that there's 20% less staffing in the San Antonio National Weather Service, and that's Trump's fault, right? And Abbott's fault. So because of them, they're saying that the adequate and proper warnings didn't go out. Really? In fact, they're even saying that the head of emergency response or something, I don't know exactly what his title is, in that same San Antonio office is also part of the reason why nothing was done properly. So you're telling me that if you have somebody that is in charge of, I don't know, let's just throw this at it. If you have an office full of accountants and there is a fire extinguisher in one guy's office at the corner of that floor of the building, that guy either is off sick or he's terminated because he doesn't do squat. The fire extinguisher is still there, and the need for the fire extinguisher is also still there. So you're telling me that because your emergency response guy whoever's in charge of that in San Antonio. In San Antonio, we're not talking about a 3-horse town here. We're talking about San Antonio, Texas. Because that guy is not employed right now, that position is vacant, that you think no one's there to call in an emergency. Really? So on that same story I was telling you about with the fire extinguisher, if that guy doesn't have a job and the fire extinguisher is still in his office and a fire breaks out, is everybody on the floor going to say, that dude doesn't work here anymore? Sorry, let the building burn to the ground. No, somebody else goes and gets the extinguisher and puts the fire out. It's not fair to the people who still work, the 80% of people who still employ in that office. It's not fair to them to act like they're all too stupid to do anything. In fact, if the other 80% of that remaining workforce in that San Antonio office is too stupid to issue an alert, then fire them all. Because they're all worthless. Every damn one of them. Because you can't tell me they all sat around and went, it's not my job. I mean, I know we're talking about government work here, but come on, really? Do you honestly think they all said, hey, not my job description? Let it flood. Well, we know that was a lie. Why? Because we saw all the alerts, and I'm here to help you with those. The National Weather Service issued a flood watch for Kerr County more than 12 hours. That's half a day ahead of the flood. They also issued a flash flood warning for Hunt and Ingram 3 hours before the Guadalupe River began to climb. Not crested, began to climb. There was plenty of time with respect to the forecast and issuance of the warning. According to the National Weather Service, they issue flash flood warnings when flooding is imminent or occurring. Brief rundown real quick. 1:14 a.m. flash flood warning. 1:46 a.m. flash flood warning. 3:19 a.m. flash flood warning. 3:35 a.m. flash flood warning. 4:03 a.m. flash flood emergency. Flash flood emergency is the top. That is the most dangerous one. That is a grab the closest thing to you and get out the door. Do not pack. Do not waste time. Get out the door. That was issued at 4:03. Now again, 3 hours before that is when the first of 4 other warnings came through. That water wasn't flooding Camp Mystique until about 4 a.m. that morning. Again, 3 minutes after the worst of the warnings came out, but 3 hours after all the other warnings began to come out. Now we have to be real here. In many cases, you may not hear those notifications. Now I do, when they come across your phone, they call them a mobile alert. When they come across your phone, that's pretty annoying. And it's going to override any kind of silencing or whatever, unless your phone is off, of course. And in camps, we don't know. I don't know this. I'm not saying one way or the other. Maybe they don't allow phones to be left on at night because they want you to get the proper amount of sleep. Otherwise you're going to sit there in bed and play on it. So we don't know what the phone situation was. But it's not a child's job, of course, to notify the adults on the property that there is some kind of an alert or whatever. My guess is, and from what I've heard, the camp knew. They had counselors and some of the people who were up. Some hadn't even gone to sleep that night because the rain had already started early. It was pretty rough rain, like a heavy downpour sitting on top of them. So some of those counselors had not even slept yet. So it's very likely they saw all the alerts and they were just waiting on instruction from their own camp council to tell them what to do and where to go. But this isn't the first time that this has happened on the Guadalupe. July 19th, 1987, searchers pulled 6 more bodies from rain-swollen Guadalupe. So this has happened before. This is a flood-prone area and they're just aware of this. Now, I will say this. I did a little bit of digging before I came on here. And last year alone, I just want to kind of, for people who don't live in an area where you have warnings like this, whether it's tornado, wind advisories, or whichever, snow advisories even, you have to understand that, I don't mean this in the wrong way, because I'm glad for the warnings, but sometimes you get a little desensitized with warnings. When you have so many warnings all at the same time and then nothing happens, that next warning you don't take as serious, right? Now, being in South Louisiana, only a couple of hours from that same flooded area, we deal with this all the time. In fact, I pulled some numbers up, and so far, as of July 4th this year, just in 2025 alone, the first 6 months of the year, essentially, we've had here in the Southwest Louisiana area 4 of our own flash flood warnings. And I can tell you that where I sit at my home, we've never flooded. You see what I'm saying? I mean, these same warnings applied to me where I sit right now, and my property never flooded. The streets didn't flood. Now, I'm not saying areas didn't flood, different pockets or whatever, like what happened over there in the Kerrville area, but the whole area doesn't flood. So you have a whole area of hundreds of thousands of people who get the same warning, and only probably a couple of hundred, couple of thousand people actually flood or have an actual legitimate threat of flooding. So you see what I'm saying? It softens you up over time whenever you get those alerts. And then when you get one at 1 a.m. in the morning, you're thinking, it's just like the other 4 we got so far this year. That's the danger of that. I'm not saying to discredit them. I'm not saying any of them should be dismissed. What I'm saying is over time, we as humans start to desensitize ourselves whenever we get warned of something that actually never takes place. So we let our guard down a little bit. Now, one quick point that I want to make, and I'm not trying to delve off into conspiracy land. I just want you guys to know some things exist that people get chastised for and spoken down on for being tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorists, or whatever. Weather modification is real. It's not some fictitious thing that you got to go on the dark web for. You don't have to go into a Reddit message board to learn more. Of course you could, but you don't have to go there to get information on it. It's readily available. Weather modification happens all the time. Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation right here shows weather modification at a glance. They discuss the process, they discuss who all is involved, how it's done, where it's done. And I just happened to find this one report from the U.S. Department of Commerce, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and look at the date of the project. Date, first actual weather modification activity is to be undertaken March 15th of 25, and the last expected weather modification is expected to happen on Halloween of this year also. So that means that we are right in the middle of weather modification projects over in this same area. The actual name of the operator in this case is Rainmaker. The green area you see down there, that's the area that we're talking about for this particular weather modification event, project, whichever. And this area, of course, as you see, follows the Guadalupe all the way through Texas. Now, the point of that is not to tell you that somebody caused this. That's not why I showed you that. I showed you that to show you that weather does get modified. And I also cannot tell you that no one else had a hand in that, right? Because this is a little bit unusual. Even though there's a flood-prone area, it's flood-prone because of the river, because of the water coming downstream. That area was actually in the middle of a drought when all of this happened. Sounds just like what happened up in North Carolina and Tennessee last year, right? That was in a drought situation, and then boom, they got more rain than they'd seen in a century. Now, the profiteers that profit off of gun control like to do the same type of stuff in this type of situation. Chris Murphy, we all know our friend Chris Murphy. Accurate weather forecasting helps avoid fatal disasters. There are consequences to Trump's brainless attacks on public workers like meteorologists. So wait a minute. He's saying that because Trump attacked a public worker, which he did not attack any meteorologist. He's associating a meteorologist to Trump because Trump has talked about deadbeat public workers, even though Trump has never talked about a meteorologist. This is just an association thing, a game that Murphy is trying to play. And of course, I couldn't let it go, so I commented down below, just like with gun control, you sick Fs can't seem to let dead bodies cool off before dancing on their graves. You should look into all of the warnings by the National Weather Service that began around 1 a.m. and delete this idiotic post, you stupid partisan F. It drives me nuts when these people get away with this kind of stuff, and I feel like they have to at least be told, we know you are lying, we know you are playing a game. Stop exploiting dead bodies in the midst of a tragedy, please. But they're not the only ones. There's a lot of these Trump haters out there right now. Look at these posts. These are people who claim to have the moral high ground, but will sit here and mock not just the leadership. They're mocking the people of Texas who this is happening to. You understand what I'm saying, right? They're not talking about leadership like when we dogged on the LA fires. We dogged on the government, meaning Gavin Newsom and the Mayor Karen Bass, for the stupid decisions they made. right? That's who we talked about. I don't recall ever seeing a post. I certainly never made any. Every one of my videos, if you go back and look, was on the screw-ups and mismanagement. In this case in Texas, there was no mismanagement. So even if you have a problem with Trump, it's not the management of the area. These people are literally just mocking the victims in this case. That's all they're doing. Because again, there's nothing any official could have done to prevent what we saw. This is not a common occurrence like what we saw over in California with the fires. This is not the same thing. You had leadership failure in California that led directly to decisions they made that prevented homes from being put out from fire. In this case, water fell from the sky and no one could have done anything to change that. Now, a doctor online, Dr. Lynn Finderella, actually has pointed out a person with Bluefish MD, which is a hospital out of Houston, who really is nasty. This little cow, Christina, said, "May all visitors, children, non-MAGA voters, and pets be safe and dry." Kerr County MAGA voted to gut FEMA. They deny climate change. May they get what they voted for. That's right. This cow literally said that. This cow, who is a pediatrician, is wishing and mocking and laughing at people who have loved ones who are still missing, or they're pulling them out of debris on riverbanks as we speak. And this cow thinks that is cute. Now, this cow here went to Princeton. She majored in politics and completed her pre-med requirements, graduating cum laude. That's so typical right there, right? You're going to one of these Ivy League schools, you're getting brainwashed in politics, and oh, by the way, you're also going to go in medicine so that you can push your garbage onto our children. She actually doubled down on it a little bit later, saying, "Is it too soon, too political to decry children caging in concentration camps in Everglades, denying hungry children food, facilitating access to weapons of war used for mass shootings, gutting medic..." She goes on, blah, blah, blah. This is all because she got lambasted and hammered for her stupid, senseless post mocking victims and families of the flooding down in Central Texas. She's trying to deflect now and say that all these things that she disagrees with people on politically, she's piling them all into one big basket to say, yes, this is why I'm saying that. In fact, she even says my rage stems from experience and expertise and is entirely justified. No, your rage stems from being brainwashed, you fat, unbathed cow. Trust me, no one thinks any more of you because you think you have experience and expertise. In fact, I would be willing to guess, based on the school you went to and the job you have now, you have less life experience than 90-something% of us out there who live in the actual real world, middle class and below, right? So don't sit here and pretend that you have some kind of intellect that is far beyond everybody else's just because you paid money to memorize things in a book and now you have a degree and a piece of paper that makes that claim. Now, where does this troglodyte work? Well, a couple different places. Looks like she has loose affiliations with. One specifically is Bluefish Pediatrics. This is, if you look at what's highlighted right here, tell me you don't see what the feeling is of an office by this statement right here. Bluefish patients will agree to maintain up-to-date vaccine status or join a practice that is more supportive of their vaccine-related philosophy. Up-to-date is defined as having had all recommended vaccines as defined by the Bluefish schedule by the next recommended well-child checkup. So they're saying if you don't follow the vaccine schedule that not other doctors or other professionals who might know better, but we at our own facility determine what the recommended schedule is for vaccines. If you don't abide by that, we will not provide care for your child. Yeah, love is love, right? We love everybody, unless you're not vaccinated. Yeah, these people go on to say a bunch of other stupid stuff about vaccines in there. So you can tell where Bluefish leans. Now, speaking of Bluefish, they seem to have tried to distance themselves from this unbathed cow again. To our patients and community, this is a statement they just put out. At Bluefish Pediatrics, our hearts are broken, and they talk about the flooding. Then they go on and say, we are aware that a personal social media comment by one of our physicians has caused significant hurt and outrage. The content timing of that post do not reflect the value standards or mission of Bluefish Pediatrics. Then they go and say they don't condone it. And when you go to their own external website now, bluefishmd.com, you will not find the webpage. This is what you get now. So these people have been hammered and they know the error of their ways. What they're going to do is put the website back once it cools back down, and they'll be the same old left-leaning wackos as they always were. Folks, this is a horrible situation. Again, we have had multiple disasters down here in South Louisiana, so we know exactly how these people feel, and it's a horrible thing, and we know that the last thing they need, in fact, they don't care about what you and I think, because they are knee-deep into fixing things in their own community. These are not the kind of people that need help from outside. But if you want to help, again, I'm happy to share that information with you, how you can get help to them, but just know that these people are likely very resilient and will take the help, but don't require it to function properly. Again, some areas, some places need that kind of stuff because they've lost everything. Like, I'm talking about diapers, I'm talking about things for babies, newborns. I mean, they're homes. There was one RV lot where they said 80-something, I believe, RVs and 11 tiny homes that were used as cabins on the property. All of them washed downstream. Every single one of them. Nothing left. So people had all their stuff. I mean, you literally had time to grab your car keys, if you had time to even do that, run out the door whenever this happened. So many of these people have lost everything. To those people mocking the victims, to those people mocking the families, the little girls who were clinging to trees until they couldn't cling anymore and just let go and lost their lives as they drowned downstream. To the people who would lower themselves and find it okay in their own minds to mock people like that, let me ask you something. You never hear our side mock whenever it's a transgender child or a Muslim kid that is caught in a disaster. When you see people, let's say over in Iran, and the children are killed by somebody else bombing them, we don't celebrate that. We might ask, why did you use them as human shields? But we don't celebrate that. We don't say they had it coming because of how you vote. There's a big difference in the mental conditioning of our side and your side. People talk all the time about politics and say no difference between Democrats and Republicans. And from a Washington, D.C. standpoint, I would have to agree with that. But philosophically, when you look at the type of people who make up those voting categories, Democrats, Republicans, there is a very distinct difference in how the mind works between those two. If you looked at most Republicans out there, they're genuinely going to be conservative people, like-minded people, and a moral compass will guide them. On the left, it's the Wild West. There's no moral compass like that. I'm not trying to generalize and say everybody on the left. But generally speaking, the good people wind up on the right just because they're conservative minded. And again, I don't mean Democrat, Republican. I'm talking about liberal views versus conservative views. No politics. I'm talking about just your daily views in life, how you handle things, right? The fact that these were little Christian girls in the South does not give you an adequate reason to act like rabid animals when you refer to them and mock them. Work on yourself, people.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. It's over.